By the dawn of the 2240s, the United Federation of Planets had enjoyed over a half-century of peace, following the Tomad incident and subsequent signing of the Treaty of Alderaan between the Federation and the Romulan Star Empire. This peace was due in large part to the presence of Starfleet. Throughout this period, Starfleet had enjoyed dominance as the largest, most technologically advanced, and capable fleet in the local galaxy, defending the Federation and its interests. To the outsider, Starfleet in 2340 appeared set to continue this trend of strength and relative power. But the decade would prove to be something of a low point in the organization's history. Though far from disastrous, the fleet's inherent issues, which had been building throughout prior decades, would be on full display for all to see by the end, and they could no longer be ignored by the Federation's government. Leading directly to the development of the ships of an all-new generation to replace the old fleet, which would enter service from the middle of the 2350s onwards, and see the fleet through the conflicts which tested both Starfleet and the Federation like no other challenge had ever before. By 2345, Starfleet appeared much the same as it had for many decades, with the fleet's mainline cruiser class still being the venerable Excelsior, with the Miranda and Oberth classes fulfilling a wide variety of roles in the fleet as well. Supporting these designs were other cruiser, frigate, destroyer, scout, and survey classes as well. These other classes, notably designs such as the Hakul, Merced, Wambundu, and others, were themselves often quite old, or at least built in only small numbers. Starfleet Command often balking at the expense of introducing a new generation of ship classes, and instead opting to develop a new refit program for the numerous Excelsior and Miranda hulls available, producing a few new ships annually, but almost always supplementing these new hulls with updated, older ships. This policy had served Starfleet well for the last several decades, but as the years wore on, problems began to rear their head. Namely, the increasing age of the ships most common in the fleet, making further upgrades a much more difficult proposition, as new technologies developed since their launch were often incompatible with their core systems. Other issues related to these ships' ages became increasingly problematic as the years wore on as well, with their structures limiting the speed they could achieve, as well as being put under increasing structural stress the longer they served past their intended service lives. Something which, while remediable, took increasing time and cost each time the repairs were done. The newer classes which had entered service since the 2290s did not have these issues, though some classes were getting up there in age themselves. But the same problem was present in all of these older designs, and that was that they were just not available in numbers significant enough to offset the ships of the Excelsior generation and warrant their replacement. In fact, by 2345, over half of Starfleet's current strength dated back from before 2310, meaning that a majority of the fleet was over 35 years old, at a time when the average age of a Starfleet crewer in the same period was merely 26. In prior periods, the age issue would not have been that significant an issue, as newer designs would have entered service at regular intervals to replace them as they wore out. But in these prior periods, Starfleet had faced opposition from peer-level powers, opposition which had often helped to get funding for new ships. But since the Khitomer Accords and Treaty of Alderaan, Starfleet had existed in something of a vacuum, with no one power presenting a significant threat to the Federation, meaning that the impetus to build new ships had slowed, and that no large-scale replacement and modernization program had been deemed necessary by the government. In fact, most new ships which were built due to the requirements for more ships to patrol the ever-expanding Federation, meaning that the old designs were kept around because Starfleet needed more, further increasing the issue at hand on its own. These issues had been quietly building in the background for decades, and they would finally come to the forefront of everyone's mind with the recovery of the Klingon Empire and the start of their rearmament in 2342. The disastrous first contact with the Sheliak species, and the start of the long-lasting border wars with the Cardassian Union, which would all occur in the 2340s. As tensions flared, Starfleet officers increasingly remarked about the fleet's median age, and questioned how effective the older ships in the fleet would be in combat against the primarily modern Cardassian and Sheliak fleets, as well as how badly Starfleet now compared to the new ships rolling out of Klingon yards. A particular point of discussion emerged around the speed at which the fleet could operate, thanks to the lower cruising speeds of the older generation of ships then in service, which held even newer, faster ships back. This lack of speed compared to newer vessels limiting Starfleet's ability to quickly react to problems along the border, and also requiring larger numbers of ships to be needed to guarantee security in a given area as they could patrol a much lesser volume of space in a given amount of time. Were newer ships available, this would be less of an issue. All of these issues and obstacles would eventually lead to a government-mandated review of the fleet to be ordered in 2346. The fleet review and its 300-page report listed out the same issues which had been raised in private and internal Starfleet circles for several years, and would lead to immediate action by the Federation's General Assembly, which passed a resolution in 2347 calling for the resources to be put aside for a major modernization of the fleet. This resolution would become law soon after. Allowing input from Starfleet representatives, a final bill would be passed before the government, receiving the official designation of Resolution for the Modernization of and Continual Support for the Combined Starfleet of the United Federation of Planets, being more commonly known as the 2348 New Fleet Act in Starfleet and government circles. Starfleet would seize on the opportunity this act presented. Many in the organization had for years complained about the limitations of the current fleet and its age, and they would not waste time, beginning to make plans for a sweeping modernization and construction program, beginning a new technological development initiative at Utopia Planitia Fleet Yards on Mars, which would become the center of the development program for these new ships. Experts in propulsion, transporter technology, weapons, sensors, shields, and all manner of other space-related technologies would be assembled, and they would begin developing the technology and systems that would go into these new vessels before design work on any new ships would even begin. In several years, furious amounts of work would be done, and in 2349 and 2350, plans would eventually be put into place and ship designs would begin to be prepared. While somewhat painful and arguably preventable, the clear demonstration of the deficiencies Starfleet faced in the 2340s, as well as the Federation's rapid response once the issue had been clearly pointed out, would lead on to the design of a new generation of powerful and capable new Starship classes, which would put Starfleet in good position for the conflicts it would face during the second half of the 24th century. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, this is part of a series that this channel is doing, covering the development of the Galaxy class and its sister classes, its stablemates, called the Galaxy family. There should be a playlist that this video is in. You can watch the other videos in the series. For the moment, it's fairly limited, but I'm hoping to put more in soon-ish. So, look out for that. Also, the channel has a Patreon, which is linked below. Patreon members get access to videos early. Also, on Patreon, though not paid for, it's totally free, you can get all of the artwork that I use in these videos. So the thumbnail and, the Galaxy illustration that I did, you can get that on the channel's Patreon if you want. Just click on the Patreon link. And there should be a section there for artwork, and you can just download and do whatever you want with it. I've made it. I like having it, but it's there if you want it. Let's see what else. I also take requests, so if you have a Starship that you would like to see reviewed, feel free to request it in a comment. Also, let me know what your favorite Next Generation episode is, I guess. I mean, if you've made it this far into the video, you also might as well subscribe. Like the video, all the things that professional YouTubers tell you to do. And yeah. I mean, I'm more settled in here now, so videos should be fairly regular from this point on, hopefully. So also stay tuned for that. I hope you enjoy the rest of the day. I hope you enjoyed this video. You made it this far into the video and you didn't think, wow, I've wasted my time. If you did, I don't know what to tell you, but hopefully you didn't. I mean, with that somewhat sad, depressing note, I'm gonna go away. Bye.